And welcome back to a Brick Rigs. The sun is setting on the city, and I'm going to show a couple more of my vehicles that I have been working on. So, some of you may have noticed as I've been scrolling through my vehicles that as I go to show them, that there was something called a Kettenkrad, and well, I've finally finished making the Kettenkrad. This is it. The Kettenkrad, some people may not know, is a World War II German artillery tractor, which was basically a little thing which was basically the front of a motorbike attached to a little half-track sort of design. And making motorbikes is still rather difficult in Brick Rigs as it stands, the day that I'm recording this, due to lack of pieces. Plus, it's difficult to make motorbikes in Lego anyway. But I've done the best that I can. So what I've got here is that you can just about see some glass here. So you've got a glass 1x2x1 axle here. And onto that I have fitted a wheel, just a standard wheel. And then in order to make the front shocks, sort of, that motorbikes have, I've just got a couple of 3x1 plates. Onto them another 3x1 plate, which is then attached to a concept of varying redirectors. And then stemming from that up, got a cylinder which goes, well, just a cylinder on another redirector. There's lots of redirectors used in this build. And so yeah, that's then mounted on another redirector here. On the front you got a little light which is like a headlight, and then that goes to yet some more redirectors. These are just two redirectors overlapped, and then onto them a couple of 2x1 rods, and then inside of here there is a couple of redirectors which these things go into, which, as you can see, it's very convoluted. In this bit there's about 6 pieces going into the handlebar alone. But yeah, so there's that, and then you've got just a simple seat at the front. You've got the chassis which goes back, it sort of extends for about half and then it slopes upwards, and then you've got a seat for the passenger at the back here, whose legs would sort of dangle down, but of course this is Lego, so legs don't quite work how legs normally do on a person, because, you know, this is Lego. But yeah, so you can have a passenger at the back. At the back there's sort of like a bit of railing, and that's what this is. This is just trying to do a bit of railing. As for the rest of it, you know, wheels, it had overlapping wheels. I tried overlapping normal wheels like these, 2x2 little wheels. Tried overlapping them as wheels, but it didn't quite work properly. They kept on breaking and destroying the machine as soon as you spawned in it. So instead what I did is I got a redirector, which you might be able to see if I just remove this. I've got a redirector sitting back here in the chassis attached to a cylinder, and then onto that a redirector 2x2 which sort of goes over the front there and looks like an overlapping wheel, and it sort of does work. And then of course down here we've got just a flat brick held on with yet more redirectors, which sort of covers up a hole in the chassis there. And then it's sort of slightly dropped down at the back, so that's what these couple of flats are there for. And then the only problem with this now was that these things kept on breaking off as soon as you spawned, and the easiest way of fixing that was simply to place a 2x1 flat and drop these wheels down slightly so that these things aren't actually touching the ground. And it works for the most part. It looks mostly like a Kettenkrad. There's the headlight there, and this is painted in, of course, the standard military grey. But yeah, the front wheels steer. The only problem with this is that these redirectors do break. Well, these cylinders, the redirector cylinders on the side here that make up the overlapping wheels, those do tend to break off, unfortunately, when going over bumps. It works mostly for actual driving, as you can see. The front wheel was the only one that turned this vehicle, so this is, of course, mirrored in the fact that the front wheel is the only one that steers this thing as well. The real vehicle could go at 44 miles an hour, so this thing's only got a little 2x2 car engine in it. And so what I've done is I've played around with the gearing to make it go at maximum. make it go at maximum 44 miles an hour, or near enough. Just like the real Kettengrad. So historically accurate, well, the speed is, at least. It is possibly a bit shorter than it should be, but oh well. Also, it tends to like to tip over if you're not careful, but as you can see, we're going 5th gear, 43 miles an hour. It's the closest you can get to 44, and this is how fast it would putter along. And yeah, it's all around a rather nice little vehicle. You've of course got the passenger who can sit back here, and then yeah, that's all for the Kettengrad. The more popular version of my Kettengrad, however, is the Afrika Korps version, which is painted in a much lighter beige, dark beige, to blend in with the desert. Also, I've put on some German crosses, and the thing that I'm most happy about is this. You may be wondering, what the heck is that? Is that a weird guy with loads of dreadlocks? No, although you may be forgiven for looking at it. There's his legs, dreadlocks there maybe, but no, this is actually my version of the Afrika Korps emblem, which is made by about 6 different 1 by 1 by 1 nameplates, which have all been stacked, overlaid. In fact, I'll just sort of take them apart. So there's 1 piece, there's 2 pieces, there's the 3rd piece, there's the 4th piece, there's the 5th piece, and then there's the 6th piece. So yeah, they all go together. So you've got, because the emblem of the Afrika Korps is a palm tree with generally a swastika in the middle, although in the censored versions it's an X, so to be politically correct, I guess, I've just put an X, because, you know, nobody wants to see Nazi signs on Lego. And so, yeah, I made, this is just the sort of upside down V symbol, which you get above the 6 on a normal keyboard. That makes the base of the palm tree. That's the main trunk of the palm tree. That's the, well, the swastika, for want of a better name. And then for the actual palm tree leaves, that's the furthest out one. Those are the closer ones, and then that's the one which goes sort of upwards. If you Google an image of it, an image of the DAC logo, then you'll see exactly how it looks and how close mine gets to it. But this is by far the more popular version of my Kettengrad. Not that there's anything different with it. It's exactly the same Kettengrad. It drives exactly the same. It's got exactly the same build features. The only thing is it's in desert yellow, and it has the Afrika Korps logo on, which is definitely the bit that I'm most happy about. I'm very happy with how it turned out. And I'm happy with how the vehicle turned out in general. It looks alright. It looks like you've got some handlebars in front of you, even if they are slightly off-centre. It goes at 44 miles per hour like it should. And yeah, the side bits break off, but other than that, it still drives. And yeah, it's all round just a nice little vehicle. Also, just quickly something to note, the universal carriers have also been changed. They now go at 30 miles per hour, and also they do have tank steering, because they're small enough that tank steering works without too much of a hassle. As you can see, Brengo carrier, if I get it going, 5th gear, travelling at about 30 miles per hour. Which is how fast the Brengo carrier actually travels. So a real-life Brengo carrier would travel at 30 miles per hour as its top speed. This thing also 30 miles per hour top speed. So that's just something quickly to note. And then we come to... well, I think I'll first kick it off with the first of the experimental vehicles that I've made. This is a super heavy rocket truck, which I tried starting ages ago, but I didn't know how to get the rocket to fire properly. So, first of all, the actual truck. Something to note, I thought I did it in this. Why isn't this? God damn it. Something to note with the trucks is that they have now got steering wheels and a gear stick in them. So that's just an extra feature. But it appears that I forgot to do it in the super heavy rocket truck, so I'll have to think about. Well, I will have to do that. But overall, the actual base truck itself is unchanged. It's my usual military flatbed truck. It's got exactly the same actuators, exactly the same feet, the exact same method of putting them down. The truck is unchanged. The only difference is the rear of the truck and what is mounted on the flatbed, because, well, my military truck, as it happens, is rather handily, easily modifiable. You can cut off the back and put anything on the back. So what I tried to do is create the biggest rocket that I could. So what this is, it's a 4x4 turntable. On the back of that there is a stop for the rocket, and then you've got a set of double rails here. Onto that put a rocket which has got 4 thrusters as its main propulsion unit. And then on that I've got 2 cameras, one there so that you can look sort of down the center of the rocket, and then one from the nose cone perspective of the rocket, and then onto that I've got a remote control so that you can actually set off the rocket manually when you need to. Also, these things can also be uncoupled using left click. And then yeah, on these, loads of tanks of C4. You've got rocket fuel as the main booster fuel, and then inside here you've just got a whole bunch of C4 in tanks, and then onto them to help it fly better. Just got some wings, streamlined wings, which sort of do their job mostly. And then because this thing is so rear heavy, I've actually mounted a little guide wheel. It's not powered, it doesn't drive, it brakes, and it can turn to help with turning, because this thing is now fairly long with that. But it doesn't drive, and that's just the only thing to note. And then let's just do that. There we go. So yeah, that's mounted on guide rails, which helps it fly straight. And yeah, so let's just take it out. Here it is. Controls mostly exactly the same. H for the headlights, J for the warning lights. The brake light at the back there has had to be moved down, or rather it's had to be moved from the sides of the vehicles, because if you remember, on the military truck there were sides on this, and the lights were running vertically up the sides, but because of this thing they've now been moved on a flatbed plane. So yeah, brake light there, reverse lights down there, and then of course the warning lights / indicators are right there. And so yeah, as you can see, the rear wheel turns right there. The actual rocket itself is movable. If we get to a rather open area, we'll shoot at this skyscraper, I think. Doesn't work every time, I will say that, it does not work every time. But you can stop the vehicle like that, and then it's Alt is how you get to moving the turntable, and then Alt and throttle will raise and lower the rocket elevation angle, and then Alt and steering will turn the rocket. Will turn the thing basically. It does get unstable if you do that, is the only problem. And then as for cameras, you've got this one here and the nose cone. This is nose cone cam, as you can see, literally mounted in the nose cone. This is from the top of the rocket. Yeah, not much to say about that one. And then you go back to first person view. And so yeah, in order to unlock the rocket, it's left click, and that should decouple it, and then its pitch is how you actually fire the rocket. But let's lower this thing down. There we go. And then that, and then okay. Pitch is how you lower the legs, and then its alt pitch is how you fire the rocket. And there we go. Boom. Yeah. So that's it basically. As you can see, the legs do actually work, because I try to drive off without the legs without the legs put down. And then, of course, you can put the rocket rocket carrier back to how it was, and then you can turn around and do whatever you need. Gotta be careful of doing that, though. Don't bump it. But other than that, yeah, it's just a ginormous rocket. It's the largest rocket that I've built, most certainly. It took me a while to actually figure out how to actually get the thing to fire. Let's see if we can hit that skyscraper over there, shall we? So the legs are down for steadying. Let's do something like that. Yeah, that looks good. So, yeah, that is the only problem with it. It does not work every single time. It will sometimes catch on the guide rails. That is just something to note. But other than that, yeah, it drives pretty normally. The steering wheel at the back really helps. And yeah, there's that. Now we come to probably the best tank creation that I have built. It is the experimental heavy assault gun. Yes, that is the barrel mounted on it. It's basically a giant rocket-firing howitzer. So you can barely tell that this thing is based on my tank chassis, because I really had to redesign this thing around the gun. I had to build from the gun up, basically. So starting with the front, the driver has basically been moved slightly. The driver is now sitting here. He has a pretty decent view to the right. Sorry, to the left. To the right, you can't see anything. There's a ginormous barrel in the way. But to the left, you can get some nice views. And then to the side, down here, radio operator. Radio operator's right down here. There's his little radio mast going up there and then out, and then there's his little radio set down by his feet there. He is right next to the spare rocket, which is the only thing. And then this is the spare rocket guide going in. And then the sides have been basically stripped down. There's a slight side here, but this thing isn't really meant to be designed. This thing isn't really designed for combat, as you can sort of clearly tell from the open-ended thing. I intended this to be smaller. No, really, I did. I intended for this thing to be smaller than it turned out. I wanted it to be mounted in a vehicle like the tank destroyer. I wanted this thing to be able to be mounted in the tank destroyer. However, due to complications of the breech and the length of plunger that we needed to actually reload the thing, because my main aim for this was not only to make a rocket shooting tank, but also to have it reload, which was something which I haven't done. So basically all of these things are things that I haven't done before, so this is the first incarnation of it. So you may have heard me mention the breech there, and that's because this thing does have a breech. It's got a warning sign there and explosive because, well, this thing's got a rocket loaded in it. It's a reloading heavy assault cannon. Heavy assault gun. This is a rocket just mounted with a tube like that, or, well, with a cone there. And it's basically high explosive. It's got C4 as fuel, so it does a big boom when it impacts things. And yeah, the input axis is the throttle, but don't worry, it won't go off when you try and move the tank because it's not actually connected to a brick. This thing is basically free moving, but due to the barrel restriction, it doesn't move anywhere. It fires perfectly fine, which was a big concern that I had, but it fires perfectly fine. It stays in the barrel very well, and yeah, it shoots out with actually very good accuracy. It's very accurate, which I was surprised with. As for the breech is basically a cylinder with another one on it, and then onto that a half sphere, which basically caps off the rocket, the thruster, because of course as the thruster's moving, it just bounces against the back of the breech, which is very, very useful. And then of course you've got the barrel right in there. this breach is, I believe it's attached. Yes, it is. This breach elevates and de-elevates, I suppose is want of a better word, with the barrel itself. This big howitzer barrel can be elevated up to a maximum of 20 degrees. Where is it? The actuator, there it is. So yeah, it can move to 20 degrees. So yeah, you can get a decent enough arc. You can get it up to about here or something, which is very useful. So yeah, this is all one component here. This bit actually does not move. I don't believe it does. No, I don't think. No, that's not attached. No, looking at it, yeah, definitely not attached. So this thing is free moving. And yeah, this whole section moves from here up all the way down to here. There's basically two actuators down here. There's one and then there's the other. They're lined up as best as I could. And yeah, they basically move the whole barrel with the rocket in it. So you fire off the rocket, and then to reload, the breech swings open, which is why this cutout is here, mostly, to allow the breech room to move. So the breech will swing completely open, and then this rocket isn't held on with anything, so it's basically free moving, so you've got to be fairly careful with it. But it's basically cradled inside of these things. And then this whole plunger tube will extend all the way in, pushing it way into the cannon. And then this would bring out, and then the breech basically closes it and pushes it in the slight little bit left in it. And then you're ready to fire again. It's fairly simple. On the back we got 3 seats for commanders, gunners, whatever you need, and then on the back, just in case, another explosive hazard, another explosive warning, and then yeah, there is the engine bay right there, another explosives thing there, just so you know it is explosive, and that's pretty much it for it. I'm very pleased with how this thing turned out. These are basically HE, so you're basically firing HE unguided missiles at things. If I wanted to, what I could do is go into explosives and just cap it off with something, but I would have to cap it off with a tank like that, and then it just sort of looks a bit weird. So these are basically HE, so they don't have much pen, but when they do penetrate, it's a one-shot, effectively. So there we go, it's daytime. The actual tank itself is unchanged. It drives completely the same. The steering is completely unchanged as well. Let me just go into settings. There we go. Let's just do that. So yeah, the actual tank, it drives perfectly fine. It goes over rubble completely fine. As you can see, we can bounce around over here without any problems whatsoever. But now I'm sure we come to what you're most expecting out of this thing, which is to see it fire. So the actual act of firing is very simple. Hold right click and enable the thruster. And whoosh, off it shall go. Out of the cannon barrel. Although I think... Yep, there it goes. So there we go. Whee, boing. Off it goes. So yeah, whilst that's off doing its thing, now you come to the reloading, which is the best bit about it. So you see it's got this actuator here. This is what swings open the breech. So pitch is how you open the breech. Just hold pitch until it stops. So that's as far as it will go. So just stop holding pitch. Then it's alt, pitch, pushes the rocket in there, pitch again, the opposite direction, brings back the plunger, and then take off alt, pitch again, and then clonk, the breech is closed, you're ready to fire. You've now got one brand new high explosive rocket mounted in your weapon. And now we come to, of course, the elevation, and the elevation of it, let's try and just hit one of those skyscrapers. So back up, you need to remember this is a rather large vehicle. So alt and steering will push it up and down. As you can see, breech moves completely with it. That's the maximum angle that you can get, but let's see if we can just clip that skyscraper with it. Yes, we can. It bounces off because, you know, the penetration is very finicky. But me and my friend were playing around with tanks yesterday, yesterday since when I'm recording this. And he was driving around in some of Grouchy's vehicles, and I was driving around in this thing, and they mostly bounced off of him, these rockets, but when they didn't, it was a one-shot, there was nothing left. So, yeah, it has lots and lots of power. And it's definitely the most interesting looking tank, which is why it's called experimental. But it's probably one of the ones that I'm most proud of. As you can see, this is the view from the driver's view. Can't see anything that way, ginormous barrel in the way. If he elevates it, then you can see out. And then, yeah, there's the other way. Sitting here in the passenger seat, there's the whole reloading thing. And then, of course, sitting at the back here from one of the other vehicles, one of the other seats. That's how it looks. So, yeah, there's that. And that's probably the most impressive thing that I've made. Well, in terms of tanks, the most impressive tank that I've made. And now we come to some of them rather more boring creations, at least by my standards, because I mostly make military things. As you can tell, that has been the theme of basically all of the Brick Rig videos. But now we come to some of the rather more tamer ones, which are not military themed. And, well, me and my friend, we went on Brick Rigs together for the first time in a while. And I said, why don't we... Well, he wanted to learn, basically, how to build things in Brick Rigs, because, of course, it's all... Some of the building mechanics have changed, so I was like, okay, let's just make basic cars. And so he built his own car, and this is my basic car that I made. Yes, this is basic for me. This is rather basic. So I didn't go with the traditional petrol engine because I've been using petrol engines all up to this point. So I was like, all right, what other motors have we got? Electric motor. Let's try it out. And so I built an electric car. So of course an electric car doesn't need a grille, so it's a completely flat front, sorry. Got them the wrong way around. Number plate at the front, PL1T for plate. Sort of. That's the number plate there. Doesn't need a grille, so the front is completely closed off. You've got the two headlamps and the two indicators at the front there. Moving on to the side, it's got a nice. Oh God, don't know what's happening there. I didn't want to move that. Up to the front, the bonnet, as it were. That's just nicely rounded off there, rather streamlined, makes it just look pretty. Then on the side, two indicators. Two indicators on the side. You've got two doors right there. Steering wheel right here. I didn't quite have enough room to put a gear stick, unfortunately, but I can always update that with a gear stick. So you've got a driver, front passenger for driving shotgun. In the back, two more seats. You've got a pillar there, which is fairly standard with most cars. That's like the B pillar, because you'd have an A pillar down there, B pillar, C pillar, D pillar. And then, of course, two back doors to allow the rear passengers in. You've got a you've got an unobstructed view out to the back window. Well, mostly. In the back, you've got a boot, rather large boot space, but 4x4. Well, 4x4. Space at least, and then on the back you've got a rear door there just for the boot, and then just a couple of pillars there. On the back here you've got two reversing lights, you've got the rear number plate, two warning lights as indicators, and then two tail lights, and then up the back you've got your high level stoplight at the back there. And then just as a little additional feature, you've got a little radio aerial for listening to your tunes in the car or whatever you wish to do. And then you've got just some side windows. I was struggling with my word there. But yeah, so there's that. The high level stoplight slightly obstructs your view, but I sort of didn't quite have enough room to fit them on the back of the car there, so I just put them in as a high-level stop lamp. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the electric car. I put it in a nice light blue because the interior is a dark blue, and really nothing goes with dark blue. At least I didn't think anything went with dark blue. So yeah, that's just a little town car that I made. It's good for a variety of things. You know, because you've got boot space for going on holiday. You can fit 4 people in here, so you can have family holidays or go out with your friends or whatever. And of course, it's an electric car, so yeah, no engine noise, which is rather nice. Sitting in the front here, this is your view. You've got a nice unobstructed view here. You've got your steering wheel in the front. You've got the nice rounded front there. Out the back, the high-level stoplight slightly obstructs your view, but really, you're going to be able to see out the back window mostly anyway, and then of course you can see the people in the back there, and well, the electric motor, this thing is pretty speedy. He put in here as like a V8 or something, but well, actually no, I think he put just a little 2x2 car engine, and I outpaced him really easily, which surprised both of us because I didn't know how quick this thing was going to be. Because look at that. Unfortunately, that sort of tends to happen if you crash. However, you're still mostly safe in here. I mean, the front is wrecked, but as for the driver, you're perfectly safe in here. And that was at a pretty fast speed, pretty high impact, that crash. But as for controls, it's exactly the same controls. H for headlights, J for warning lights, your reverse lights there, and then your high-level stoplight is up top, and then if I take that off, yeah, they sort of do the same thing. So yeah, other than that, other than the fact that it's really quick, because we're going at 100 right now, 120, 130-ish as we go over that ramp there. Other than that, it's just a nice little car. It's by far not the most popular thing that I've made because, well, it's not a military vehicle, but I'm quite proud of this thing. It's a nice little town car because, well, you know, I sort of needed one. I need to do something other than military vehicles. I mean, come on. But yeah, so that is it for the electric car. It's a nice little thing, if I say so myself. It's quite compact, but yeah, it's a nice little car. Now we come to the second to last vehicle, which is the ambulance, which is something that I started, and it took a while to make, really. So it is based on the military truck, although you can barely tell, because it's based on the chassis of the military truck, but from the black here of the base chassis, that bit completely up has been rebuilt. So starting from the front completely redesigned. Headlights at the front there, you've got warning lights there. The front grille has been completely changed. It's 4 grille pieces, 2x1, which are in chrome, and then you've got a redirector there with a little gold cap, which just makes it look nice. The number plate reads M3D1C. Medic is, of course, what it's meant to be. It's just sort of shortened a bit and changed to look like a number plate. So, yeah, that's that. Up the top here, flashy lights, obviously, red and blue, flashy lights, and then you've got siren up here. This is the German fire department because there is no ambulance siren yet. So this is what I've had to do. The whole thing's been painted white to show that it is an ambulance, and it's got a big red cross on the top of the vehicle here. The sides I completely changed. I even changed. This is how much I rebuilt this thing. I even changed the side mirrors. The side mirrors are now these 3x1 rounded flats with a redirector cylinder and then a flat chrome cylinder. And in here, the floor is red, just, I don't know, because it contrasts with the white like ambulances do. And then it's got an antenna here as the gear stick, and then you've got the steering wheel right there. And then inside it's still wood because, well, I thought it looked nice, and you have to retain something of the old military truck. So moving up to the, moving back even to the main ambulance part. On the side, red cross. on both sides, red cross. Ambulance has been written on the side. You've got a red band just to break up the white, because otherwise this is just a block of white, and it sort of doesn't quite look that great. So yeah, strip of red is going down both sides with a white strip saying ambulance. And then up the top, more flashy lights here, and again at the back, topped off with a nice flat 12 by 8 by 1 flat, and then a couple of flats at the back there, just to make it look nice. Wheels are of course white as well, because it's an ambulance. The bottom hasn't been changed, nothing to note. At the back, more flashy lights, blue and red again. I admit I might have gone over the top with flashy lights, but yeah, from the back we've got these warning lights slash indicators, which is what they're meant to indicate, and then the rear number plate there. You've of course got your tail light there, your brake light there, and then your reverse light there, completely the same as the military truck. And then at the back you've got a ramp, because when I was building this thing, I started building the interior. I put in the doors, which was one of the first things to be put in. I put in the doors, got out, realised, you're basically having to carry the body on your shoulder and sort of jump into the back of the truck. So we need a way of getting in, and most ambulances have a ramp to help get wheelchairs in and out, whatever. And so yeah, that's what this is. So it's got a hazard tape on the back, or at least hazard print on the back, just to show that this is a military an ambulance, and that you shouldn't get in the way of this thing, because this is the ramp. So it's sort of like saying danger, this will crush you, whatever. And then on the back you've got a red flat brick here, which that's purely because the inside floor is red as well, so it just sort of continues the theme. And then at the back, double doors here. They're large double doors because you can actually enter this thing, and I will show you why. But you've got these actuators at the bottom here. These are what open the doors. And then up the top you've got free moving physics-driven actuators, just to help the doors swing a bit smoother. And then these are the actuators which drop down the rear ramp. And then as we move in, there we go. These have been set to exactly 127 minimum angle, just so that this thing will go down without you having to worry about breaking it as you push it down too far. But now we come to anyone who's still watching. Now we come to the bit inside the ambulance, which is what everyone wants to see, and this is it. Yes, I have modelled the interior of an ambulance. So by the front doors, first of all, first aid kit and a defibrillator, because these are going to be probably the two most things that you're going to need if you turn up to a hospital scene, of a call out. These are going to be the two things that you're most likely going to need. First aid for any quick fixes, as it were. It's not meant to come out like that, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm getting at. You're going to need to grab that, and then if somebody's heart stopped and you need to quickly do it, then you can run to the ambulance, grab the defib. Defibrillator is what that's short for, and then defib them. That's got this thing. Electrical warning, because of course, it can restart hearts and it can also stop hearts, and it's in a black box with defib written on it, so you know what it is. And then you've got a sort of wheelie chair, as it were. That's what this is meant to be. It's meant to be like an office chair, so they can roll around in the ambulance. This thing would of course be locked down before the ambulance drove off, but then when a patient is wheeled in or whatever, the paramedic can sit on here and write down anything that they need, or administer anything to the patient. Moving back, you've got a sort of wheeled bed for the patient, and this is just done by a couple of circular cylinders on some glass redirectors so that you don't see them, and then this is just a basic bed construction. And then up here you've got a sort of box. You've got sort of canisters of pills, which are just various pieces, and they're just mounted in a small cabinet that I made. And then you've got drawers here, because there's tons of drawers and cabinets and things that ambulances have. And so, yeah, you've got drawers in there, and then these are just various cylinders with chrome tops, just to show that that is the cap on the painkillers, whatever they might be. And then I've painted them. Well, they've been coloured all different colours, just so that they aren't the same thing. Coming back here, you've got 2 more cabinets down here. The print took a little bit of time to figure out. So you've sort of got the handles here, and then the hinges which would swing the doors open. And you've got 2 of them there. Same with there. Got a little handle on there, and then the big drawer. But then moving back, you've got sort of a keyboard and mouse, which is what this is meant to be. There's the keyboard, there's the mouse. You've got another seat for another paramedic, and then on here, this is meant to be sort of like a database or a computer where they would get anything that they need. A bit like police have computers. This is like this is just like an ambulance computer. And on this, I've just put a little heart rate monitor, even though this isn't what it would be used for, I imagine. But it's just something to fill the gap, and it's just a nice little add-on. And yeah, that's mostly it for the ambulance. It uses a van engine down there, but I've got most of the basic things that you need. So you've got drawers with various things that you might need, cabinets for things that you might need, a little computer, got a couple of seats, you've got the thing for the patient, the bed for the patient, which can be wheeled out on the little wheels, and then you've got just a nice little add-on of just some painkiller bottles and things. And then, yeah, under the front here, you've got just a little van motor, because I tried a V8, but it was far too quick, and this thing's far too top-heavy for it. But as we come out here, yeah, H for the head. Well, I use H for the headlight, but H also sounds the horn, which is a bit annoying for me. But it's only a quick tap, so yeah. The van engine powers this thing along quite handily. It is unfortunately fairly top-heavy due to the high ground clearance, but the high ground clearance does mean that you won't have any trouble actually getting to the scene of the problem. Yeah, you press Q, Q for these things, which are I've forgotten what they're called, but they're like beacons, I think, is what they're called. But Q is how you activate them, and they're the flashing lights. And then inside, this is what it looks like. You unfortunately can't actually see the rear view mirrors, or the side mirrors rather, which is the most annoying bit. But oh well, you've got your steering wheel and everything. So yeah, there's all that. If you press 1 or 2. No, just 1. If you press 1 with the siren, you will get, the warning siren coming up, which is like this. So yeah, as you're travelling down the road, just so people know to get out of the way, just press 1, and that will come on. I'll just turn it off for now. Unfortunately, yeah, rather top-heavy. This thing was top-heavy as a military truck to a certain extent, but now as an ambulance it's really top-heavy, so try not to do tight turns at any sort of high speed. But yeah, J for your warning lights there, perfectly the same. But now we come to actually getting into the back of the ambulance, so it is pitch up and down to raise and lower it, so there we go, that's it, fully closed, and then it's Alt and pitch. Alt and pitch opens up the sides there. Unfortunately, that left door does get stuck sometimes for some unknown reason, but then you can come out, you can come up the ramp. It is a rather steep angle, unfortunately. I could extend it, but then it would just sort of be looking ridiculous. But anyway, coming inside, so you can walk around, defib, first aid, sit in the seat. There you go, that's what it looks like. You can get out. Unfortunately, it deposits you right here. But that's a problem with the game, mostly. But coming over here, you can look at the pills. You've of course got the cabinets there. You've got the bed here. You've got the cabinets there, and then you can sit in the seat. And yeah, that's mostly it for the ambulance. It took me a long time to work on this ambulance. It took me a long time, because I was basically building it from the ground up. You've got chrome tread plates down there. The front I'm very happy with. It looks nice. The flashy lights, I've got loads of flashy lights on it. it feels like an ambulance, it looks like an ambulance, and well, the interior took the longest time, but I'm very happy with the detailed interior that I've put in here. And so yeah, we can now close it up like that, raise up the back there, and then we can just sort of drive off just like that. So yeah, that's it for the ambulance mostly. It's unfortunately not as quick as I wanted, but like I said, I tried a V8 but it was far too quick, and this thing's far too top heavy, and it just kept on rolling over, and it was far too uncontrollable. So yeah, this van engine will have to do. But it sort of makes sense. Oh dear, we're going over a rubble at 60 miles an hour. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. We've lost all our wheels. But yeah, so that's it for the ambulance. Now we come to the final vehicle of what is going to be a long video. But now we come to the final thing, which is the police car. Because, well, I have an ambulance, now all I need is a police car and a fire engine. So, yeah, I was playing around with the police car. I tried to base it on sort of like the British police cars, so that's why it's got this this yellow and blue stripe down the side here. But starting from the front, Pol 1 is the registration, obviously standing for Police 1. Up the front here, you got a little bumper, which is a little chrome bumper, chrome grills here, headlights, warning lights there. As to how this is being held on, it's being held on by a couple of glass bricks there. Going to the bonnet, flashy lights on there, police written on the front in a nice blue lettering. And then coming back, you've of course got the windscreen. Inside, you've got obviously the gear stick, and then you've got the steering wheel as per normal. Because of how the British work, because we're weird and different, we decide to put blue and yellow striping on the side of our police cars, and so, well, because the doors are 3 long, I decided, you know what, yeah, let's just do 3 long along the whole side of the thing. So yeah, that's the reason for this. I'm very happy with how this thing turned out, because it uses a lot of new techniques that are new to me. One of which is this, which is that I used a different kind of mudguard, because I'm experimenting with mudguards. Because in the electric car I used a different type of mudguard to the one that I would normally use, and this is also different. And so yeah, because of this thing, if I was to put a normal 1x1 brick in, it would sort of glitch through, or well, it would sort of come through. So instead what I did is I had a redirector under here, 1x1 redirector, and then onto that I had just attached a ramp. And then on here another redirector, a 1x1 flat redirector with studs on both ends, and then yeah, well, there it is, and then just a single 1x1 flat on there. The wheels are unchanged, really, nothing to note. On the side, police has been written here, Pol on one side, ice on the other, because, you know, I couldn't do it as one complete thing because of the colour split, because Britain's weird. And then up the side, English police cars generally tend to have the same blue and yellow striping, but it didn't work, it looked weird, and so I had a bit of a bit closer look, and some of the English police cars do just have black as the pillar trims, and so that's what the black's there for, because it just makes it look nicer. And then coming through to the inside, in here got a couple of grey rods, which have just got some cylinders and redirectors, which attaches them to just a 4x1 brick, and then some more doors, colour-coded obviously, which allows you to put the criminals into the back of the car. And then you've got the glass back there, another pillar, and then the glass at the rear of the vehicle here, which is nice. On the side, 999, which is the English police number. And then in order to hold these things on, these 3x1 bricks, down the bottom I've just got some you know, I've got a 6x1 flat, which is white, which also gives it a nice bit of trim down the bottom, so that's all like bottom trim. And then, of course, on the back again, I've got another slope and another one here. And then I didn't have to worry about this one because the mudguards actually poke out here, and then they sort of come out to go down the side of the car like for the rest of it, so I didn't have to worry about that. And again, another slope here. Coming to the back, stop lights. You got tail lights here first of all, and then you've got warning lights there, and then that's pure braking lights. That's like your high level stoplight, except it's not quite as high level as a normal one would be, because otherwise it obscures the driver's view, which would not be good. On the back here, you've got a boot. The boot doesn't open, but you've got some 3x1 flats here, and then this is just printing simply by using some underscores, a vertical line and some spaces. It just makes it look like a boot. And then on the back here, again, police in light blue lettering, and then there's the back of the boot there. And then you've got Pol 1 as the number plate on the back. I've just realised there's no reverse lights. That's a bit of an annoyance, but sorry, not reverse lights. Flashy lights are on there, and then up the top, you've got again flashy lights, blue and red, and then you've got a siren on here, which is the US siren, just to make it different, because it sounds the most like a police car. And then, yeah, so that's just mounted up there as just flashy lights on the top of the vehicle. But now we come to the newest bit, which I'm experimenting with, which is actually doing details on the underside of the car. Because if we have a look on the underside of the car, I've actually detailed it. Yeah, I've gone overboard with the detailing. So first of all, for the bumper, that's just held on with a couple of cylinders, and the glass is just so that the number plate fits on. But as for the actual underside of the car, as you can see, this would be these would be the prop shafts and the drive shafts for the actual wheels, for the front and the back, which would then go into there. And then those come out to the gearbox, which basically covers the it basically covers where the the antenna sticks out as the gear stick. And so I was like, well, you know what? Let's go for the underside. Let's do some detailing on the underside and just make that into a gearbox. So yeah, there's the gearbox for the car. There's the main drive shaft going to the back of the car, which then splits into the back of the wheels. Well, back into the wheels. And then I was like, right, okay, now we need a DPF and things. Now what? Well, we can't have them blend in with the grey, and they don't fit with the drive shaft, so we're going to have to mount them sideways. Or not sideways, but to the side of it. How do we distinguish between the two of them? Paint them chrome. Perfect idea. So, yeah, this is basically the exhaust system coming down from the engine. These are just a couple of cylinders which are then held onto various redirectors, which basically just sit up there, and they're hidden way under here somewhere. In fact, here it is. It's a redirector here, which is attached to a redirector there, which then fits onto a jumper plate, and then yeah, it's basically two cylinders which go down here, and then they link all the way along into the DPF back here, which then goes all the way past into this bit, which is mostly the main exhaust now, and then on the back of that I've got an actual exhaust which has got some white smoke which just puts out, and yeah, that's the last bit of detailing. Yeah, I forgot to add reverse lights. How did I manage that? But yeah, other than that, I've made it look as English as I could for an English police car. And then if we come out, it's daytime, wonderful. Don't worry, it'll soon be raining. It's England. In fact, no, I won't. Rain is really loud. I was going to make it raining just to give it the real, authentic English theme. But there you go. Headlights there. J for the warning lights. Unfortunately, yeah, the headlights do activate the horn due to how I've set up my game. But either way, as you can see, reverse lights work perfectly fine. Headlamps work at the back as well. You've got all the detailing on the back. There's the smoke coming out of the back, and then as for Q is how you activate the flashy lights again. This is what it looks like from the inside. Obviously, being the driver, you can look back at the bars to keep the criminals in, and then you can sit in the back as a criminal if you wanted. But yeah, so there it is. And then pressing either 1 or 2 will activate the police siren. So here's pressing 1. And then pressing 2, and then you simply turn it off by pressing the same number again. So yeah, there's the police car. I've even mounted the steering wheel and the driver's wheel on the correct side for England. So yeah, we drive on this side because this is the proper side. Yeah, that's right, Americans. So yeah, this is that. It's mounted on the correct side. Yeah, gear stick, various detailing, got flashy lights, got a siren for catching all those criminals. It's got the smallest engine, which is the simple city car engine, but it still goes reasonably quickly. And yeah, mostly it looks like a police car. I still need a reverse light, but anyhow, I can't wait. This was probably the quickest emergency vehicle, but then again I've only done 2 and one of them was a gigantic ambulance, so that's not surprising. But yeah, it's just a little police car, and I'm very happy with it, because well, it feels like a police car, it looks like a police car, it drives like a police car, and I've even got underside unassigned conditions, and I wasn't paying attention when I crashed. Should have kept my eyes on the road. But oh well. So there we go. So yeah, that's all of my brick rig builds. This is going to be a very long video, but so apologies for that. But I'll thank you for watching and goodbye.